Hi, my name is Keith and I'm known as a Florida Stone Man. And today I'm going to be talking to you about a video topic that might be scary to some, but it's going to really help a bunch of people. And this video topic is how people can take your spiritual gifts. And this is actually a different video than what you expected it to be. This might make some people really mad, but the thing is, everything is light and dark, and this video is going to be exposing some darkness, so there is moving closer to your higher self and your highest self, and there's moving away from it and being put in a place that takes away and subtracts from who you're trying to become, or mainly your gifts, mainly things that God has given to you so that you can access and become the highest version of yourself. In this world, there are so many people, and this actually, some people are fully successful in being able to stop you guys from reaching your spiritual gifts. And I've talked about what spiritual gifts are before. There's a lot of spiritual gifts. There's a lot of spiritual gifts. And I'm going to give you a heads up. People of light and who do right will always see more light and things go right. What does that mean? When you're on the right track, when you're doing things out of the goodness of your heart, when you're moving, most importantly, when you're moving yourself closer to God, you're going to see your gifts open. But as they open, you'll have people you come across that will do their best to close it. And what does this mean? What does this mean? People will do everything to make sure you don't pass them. And this can actually block the growth of your spiritual gifts. And for people who do get necklaces from me, and they undergo a transformation, they undergo their gifts being opened, and I've had a good amount of my gifts open, they are at a certain place where everyone would call them crazy. So you start seeing visions, you start hearing voices, you start being able to feel and detect energy and touch things that are not even in front of you, or not even in front of you, or being able to connect with things such as objects or herbs or crystals and etc. List goes on end. Now, and I've seen this too many times. Way too many times. And this happens a lot with spiritualists and mentors and teachers on YouTube, on TikTok, on everywhere online. These people need to keep certain, and I am not saying every one of them. There's a lot of them, but it's not all of them. A good spiritual teacher and a good spiritual mentor is Eve the Medium. She is legit, 100% legit. She is of the light. She teaches goodness and how you guys can move closer to God and actually access your spiritual gifts. There are certain people, which I'm not going to name on this video. I don't name people who are not worthy of being named. But there are certain people, and you guys have to figure this out on your own. Like I said, take my videos with a grain of salt. Take every video you see online with a grain of salt. And really get into the habit of discerning for yourself what is good for you and what is not good for you. Now, and here's how it goes. When you first begin to tap into your Kundalini energy, when you first be able to tap into gifts, they start sprouting open. And like I said, the chakras are like a tree. They go up the chakras, and once they start hitting the third eye and the crown, they start sprouting like wildfire. Whatever was there before starts opening like crazy. And if you have someone, and this could be a spiritual teacher or a mentor, or even friends or family, because this actually happens to younger kids who somehow they get their gifts from a past life starting to sprout into this life, but they flat out get cut off by their parents. When children start being able to hear their guardian angel, and this happens a lot. This actually happens a lot. Or see visions. And even with some of my nieces and nephews, I'll put a crystal ball in front of them and say, tell me what you see. And they'll be like, I don't see anything. And I'm like, tell me what you see. And they'll tell me something that happens a week later. And they'll be like, like penguin. A week later, I meet someone who is really, basically, I become very good friends with, and their shirt was a giant penguin on the shirt. That's just an example. Gifts are already there. You probably have unlocked them in a past life and they're trying to transfer over into this life, or you might have started unlocking them in a past life and they transfer over to this life. I highly suggest, if you're not sure which gifts are what, because we all have different gifts, and when one of them starts opening, they all start opening like complete wildfire. And you better make sure you have people around you and people above you, like mentors and stuff like that, or teachers, who are open-minded into you having your gifts open. I've seen this so many times. And one thing that will happen is when your gifts start to open, like truly blossom and truly open, your friends or your teachers or just spiritual mentors or any kind of people around you, when they begin to open, there's two options, or a few options. That it's more than two, there's mainly two. One, they'll be accepting of it, or two, they'll be jealous or just turned off, or it scares them that you're passing them, and they make you out to be their enemy or frenemy or anything like that, and they single you out. They make sure that gift doesn't open, or it actually takes a lot longer to open than it should, or it actually doesn't open in this lifetime, or it opens later on. What's a good example? Because a lot of you are, for people who are opening their spiritual gifts, you are a very small percentage of this entire planet. When you go to tell a friend, like, hey, I'm starting to see visions. Hey, I'm starting to hear voices. They're like, I hear a tunnel feeling in my wind. I mean, I hear a tunnel feeling in my ear. I feel a bunch of wind, and then I hear a whisper as to what is being said. And they'll be like, you're nuts. You are crazy. And they'll probably make fun of you. And this does happen so often that I have people coming to me telling me, okay, this has happened to me when I'm a kid and it's happening to me again. Like, I don't know what to do. People are making fun of me and calling me crazy and making jokes at me. And I'm having these gifts open. I actually help the people open their gifts. For people who have gotten Atacamite from me especially, that crystal blasts open your third eye so quick, it's insane. It does it in a safe way. It cleans out, it purges, and then it opens your third eye. But then, everything's open. And once you're at the stage where your gifts, you let them open, they start sprouting like wildfire, and things like just miracles start happening. Of course, it's awkward and weird and strange. Like, you'll have just different sensations on your body, and just like you'll start feeling different energies that are not really available to you before, and you'll start being able to have different perceptions. I would like you guys to study. I'll talk about this other clairs. So there's objective, and this goes deep, and I don't want you guys thinking of spiritual gifts like this. There's objective gifts and there's subjective gifts, but some of them can be both, and some of them can be kind of intermixed. And it depends on the person as well, so it's not really a good way to teach it. So, for example, there's clairvoyance in the mind, or in the mind's eye, when you close your eyes, and they call it your imagination. They want it to be your imagination. You start seeing visions, you start seeing pictures, you start going places. That's the bank. That's basically the bank of the spiritual realm. That's your bank of your higher consciousness, different dimensional accesses of information, and that's your bank there. Now, and there's a few ways, because I can't go too deep into this, but what's it called? Because it's really not fair to break it down in subjective versus objective, because it actually goes way past that into different dimensional scopes. So you'll have the clairvoyance in your mind's eye, or just in your imagination, and then you'll have the one that you're able to project outwards, which they open either in order or out of order, or etc. It depends on who the person is and what your spiritual gift set is. Now, there's some people, and I would like you guys to try this right now, because some of you are about to get your gifts opened right now watching my YouTube video. Close your eyes. Look into the darkness of your eyelids. If you see all black, you most likely don't see all black, but you're seeing what you think is all black, and you're seeing clouds. Now, some people might see colors and shapes and faces and a complete array of what they see in their third eye, and they've never really known that this is a spiritual gift of the astral realm. This is you being able to access a gift and to fully open it. Now, And this is where some of your gifts start getting blasted open, but you've been told your entire life. You've told teachers or mentors or friends, and like, that's crazy. That's just in your imagination. You're a weirdo. And this does happen. Like, people will be like, oh, what a weirdo. Like, you talking about you see faces when you close your eyes. Yeah, the faces that you see are the faces that... Because sometimes, you guys, especially when you're getting information that's going to save you from a person, you will see the information in your third eye or being projected outwards. So look in the darkness of your eyes. What do you see? Do you see clouds? And I'll make further videos on how you can develop this ability, and you'll just start being able to see visions in your eyelids or in your mind's eye. And when you're out and about during the day, you're going to see visions when you're just walking around. You're going to see extra people. You'll sometimes see angels, which people are like, oh, you can't see angels. Yeah, you can. They're helpers of humanity, and you're going to see them if God allows you to see them, if that's in your natural gift set. By the way, gifts get taken away from you completely if you are bad with them, or if you're egotistical, or if you try to use them for bad. They're taken away very quickly. A little secret is they're not actually our gifts. They're gifts that God has given to us for us to use. And they're gifts, like they're actual gifts. And he gives us the gifts to see what you do with the gifts. Now, that's clairvoyance. That's a little less intense. I mean, for some people, it's super intense. Like, I can't go to bed without seeing all these colors when I close my eyes. I'm like, okay, we'll do this, 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 and this. Like, tap on your eyelids, tap on your third eye, visualize it being closed for a period of time until you wake up, and then put a timer on this, etc. So you'll have like a on button versus off button. This is why you should put certain things during meditation. So when you open your third eye, or when you start opening clairvoyance and you start seeing visions, you're doing that outside of when you're going to bed. So you have a schedule for it. So your angels and ancestors not a lot of ancestors will be fully aware of when you're trying to fall asleep. So they'll just pump out the visions and be like, hey, I've been trying to get this to you all day, and finally I can get it to you because you're relaxed, and you're like, I'm trying to go to sleep. So that's what meditation's for. You put that on the meditation time. Now that's the gifts of the clairvoyance gifts. Now, when you open your clairvoyance, everything else will start to open, including clairaudience. Now, clairaudience, this one, for people who are opening it on their own, you're going to feel like a crazy person. What does this mean? You might feel like you're schizophrenic, and some people actually are schizophrenic, and some people are actually legitimately hearing voices. Okay. Some people are actually hearing their spirit guides' voices or angelic voices. There's a few ways this can go, because when you open your spiritual gift of clairaudience, it depends if the energies around you are cleared. It depends if there's just any entity around you. It depends, etc. So for people who I know who have opened their clairaudience, it usually starts off as voices in their head. So I taught about this before. You're supposed to do the mind tracking game. Write down where all your thoughts are coming from. Once you find a thought that's not really yours, start tracking it. So some of you might have gifts of hearing voices, and this is actually, I don't recommend you guys do this on your own because people will think you're flat out crazy. Especially when I started hearing one of my head angels, I call him, in my head. Basically one of my main guides, the guide that sits on my head. When I started hearing him, I thought I was losing my mind. I thought I was going nuts. And then, at the time, I had a mentor, and the mentor did not want anyone passing him. That mentor kept everyone capped off so their gifts wouldn't open past him. And yes, I'm saying this very openly because this is going to help people. What you're doing is right, or what you're doing is not right. In the end, the light will expose everything, and God judges all. Now, I was hearing a voice in my head, and I started acting upon hearing the voice. Upon sharing this information of saying, okay, I'm hearing a voice in my head that's giving me information about certain things, I was called nuts. I was called crazy. I was made fun of. But going deeper into this voice, because after I stopped telling people I was hearing a voice in my head and it was not my voice, it sounded like my voice, but it was giving me lots of information. This voice told me everything. It told me everything about everything. It's saying, hey, this mentor is practicing energy vampirism and trying to steal the gifts of all their students. This mentor is doing readings behind people's backs. This mentor is putting curses on people around certain times of the month just to take it off so that this mentor can charge money. This mentor and this voice during meditation, unloaded all this information. My heart was pounding out of my chest. I'm like, okay, this is not my voice, and this voice is telling me everything. This mentor practices energy vampirism techniques on people just for fun. This mentor thinks that everyone around them is so dumb that no one's going to catch on. And then this voice in my head unloaded everything about this mentor. Now, this voice in my head that I would only go to during meditation I am not a reader. I'm able to talk to angels, both subjectively and objectively, but I don't use it to read people. Just because I'm able to hear angels does not mean I'm able to read people. That's not correct. That is not right. Not everyone is meant to be a reader. You can find about that on Eve the Medium's channel. But the long story short is when I kept private about it, and I went into a very specific mechanism about interpreting this voice, writing everything it was saying down, I just took my tarot cards and I just kind of threw them out. I'm like, okay, cool. One of my gifts has opened, and it was scary. And I couldn't really talk to too many people, but it led me to unlocking other gifts. So this voice, and it sounds completely nuts, because you'll have a guide talking in your head with your voice, and so you have to be very careful about this, because if the voice is of darkness, if the voice is saying things that is not of light, it is not right. So sometimes, and the voice, you should know, if you're accessing the clairaudience in your head, you can't just go to a bar and try to talk to the voice, because you're going to pick up something in the bar. Something in the bar is going to come home with you, and it's going to tell you, hey, basically this Greek god is trying to communicate with you. Talk to the Greek god. You're going to be a god yourself. So in opening that gift, clairaudience can be a very scary gift to open, and it can be a very fun gift to open, but you have to be around people who are open-minded. Anytime you're around friends, family, or anyone around you who does not want you having that gift or thinks you're absolutely crazy regardless, will 100% try to shut that down, make fun of you, make you out to be a pariah, and etc. Now, this voice I've actually found out from the other voices, because once you start hearing angels with your ears, with your actual ears, it becomes a lot easier. Because now you're hearing in your ear, because the way okay, for people who have opened their clairaudience, it may start off as a tunnel. It may start off as like, and then it gets quiet, and then you hear a voice come in. So it goes into either one of your ears. And this is one of those no-cap YouTube videos where I'm just, for the people who are sick of being put down, and the people who have been used to being made fun of their entire lives, they're going to get help on this video. Now, if you have these gifts, I highly recommend you keep them to yourselves and not go out advertising them for the whole world. Don't be rebellious. Don't try to go against society. Don't try to read other people, because that's how you get the gifts closed very quickly. Not everyone's meant to read everyone. You pick up too much energy reading someone. Now, that's clairaudience. So, and people's objective clairaudience objective will open just randomly after, usually the clairvoyance opens. So you'll open the clairvoyance and you'll try to go to bed, and you'll hear, like, let's just say you leave the TV on, or you leave it on low, and then you're kind of hearing the TV in the background, and you get up out of your bed, you check the TV, thing's not on. Like, okay, I'm hearing little low voices, like, what is this? What is this madness? And that's actually, some people will freak out, ask for God to shut the gift off, and the gift will get shut off. Same thing with the subjective clairaudience. People are like, God, please make these voices go away. And they'll go away, because he's like, okay, shut this off. Like, this person doesn't want this. Shut it off. And then the voices will go away. Some people who think they're schizophrenic actually have lower level entities giving them thoughts, and it's spiraling out of control to the point where they don't know what to do with it. So if you're to open your subjective clairaudience, the voice in your head, which actually talks a lot louder than people out loud, I highly recommend you go to Eve the Medium, or an actual good medium such as Eve the Medium. She's the only one I will suggest. She's the only medium that I will suggest. Because all the other mediums I've come across are 98/99% of them have some concept of darkness to the point where they know they're a medium, they know you're vulnerable, and they're going to take advantage of you. Because how are you going to fight back? How are you going to not trust them if you need to trust them to get help? Go to Eve the Medium if you need actual help. Now, I talked about 2 gifts so far and how people can block them off. Basically, how people can block them off is calling you crazy, telling you to deny it. They're jealous and they see that you're opening your gifts past them and they don't want that, and etc. Now, there's so many other gifts, and these are the only 2 gifts. Well, I'm not going to say they are not the only 2 gifts. They're the main 2 gifts I'll talk about because they're the most 2 common ones to open and people just shut them down immediately. They normally open in that order. Sometimes you'll open your clairaudience first and you'll be able to hear the voices of angels. And if you're someone of bad intention, you will hear the voices of fallen angels. Just to get that straight. If you're someone who has some kind of hidden intention, you do some kind of bad, you do some kind of something that pushes angels away from you, you're going to hear spirits and they're going to tell you anything and they're going to use you for energy. They'll mess with every tarot reading, every cards, they'll mess with your friendships, they'll mess with everything. So just making sure. God knows when it's time for your gifts to open, or you'll have different signs that they're opening through your life. And people will try to shut them down very quickly. Now, clairtangency, there are certain things, this is a gift shut off very easily. I believe this is the right one. So it's basically you being able to track an object by touching it, or you being able to track a picture by touching it. So you'll touch it, a whole bunch of memories and ideas will flood into your head, and then you'll just think it's some random thoughts, like, oh, okay, cool. Just random thoughts, like, oh, Actually, people don't even ask where their thoughts come from. So you're able to pick up an object. So let's just say, who dropped this hat? You pick up the hat, you close your eyes, you see a billion images of this person who dropped the hat, the story of how they got there, etc. But people don't reach this gift because when they see images after they touch the hat, or they feel a certain energy after they touch the hat, they're like, oh, it's just a hat. What's it feel like, a hat? Versus it feels like this person was on a motorcycle and they were driving down the street and they had a woman on the back of the motorcycle and the hat came off and they never turned around to get the hat, and this person goes to this gym. Oh. We live in a day and age where gifts are so shut off so very quickly. And you can tell if people are making stuff up based on if they're trying to get entertainment. So if that person, and like I said, intention is absolutely everything. If that person is selling you a story or is taking you on a ride, like, ooh, like you're the next best America's Top Model, or like, oh, you have all this power and you're going to be a god. Oh, this person has so much power, they're going to be the future. Like they're going to change. If you're going to change the world through doing like just crazy bad stuff, that's already you being, that person's already giving themselves away. Either if their gifts are actually open and they're talking to something, it's really dark, or that person's just making stuff up. Because I have seen in the spiritual community, spiritualists who have actually been so egotistical and dark that they've wanted their gifts open. Keep in mind the word want. They want their gifts open, but they actually haven't became their truest self by moving closer to God, or evaluating their intentions, or really cleaning their energy and bad habits and thought processes and putting other people down or hurting other people. Those people will always want their gifts open but never have their gifts open. Another kind of person who fakes spiritual gifts and will close the gifts of others is someone who's so impatient that instead of actually waiting for their gifts to open or just taking the small signs as big signs, that person will take the big signs as small signs, but the big signs will be signs they've made up. I hope you guys are following me. And that person will normally make friends, and their friends will have friends, and their friends will have friends, and be like, I'm casting this magical power. There's so many people in the spiritual community that will make stuff up, and this actually is enough to contaminate the people who actually do have these spiritual gifts open, because that person will go around these people who are making stuff up, and they'll not really get any help because it's not legitimate. This is another extremely in-depth video, and I've shared more about myself, more about some of what you guys are going through, because these gifts are very, very easily accessible if you're doing 100% right, if you are keeping the right people around you, if you are working with the right crystals, the right herbs, the right essences, if you're doing your prayers, if you're moving closer to God, because if you think you can open gifts without God, you can't. You really can't. The thing about humans, us as humans, It's hilarious because people will try to do things behind God's back. People will try to do things behind God's back. And they don't realize that God's in everything. Like, oh, God's in heaven. He's watching us sometimes. Sometimes he's in every little atom of every little particle of everything. And when you try to manipulate someone, when you try to put someone down, when you try to do something behind his back, and then you go to him praying, asking for certain things when you're just doing corrupt things, and you expect for your gifts to be open, you're not going around God. It's really astonishing what people will do. People will try to sell their soul for... People will try to sell their souls for gifts, and you'll get... I don't like to call them gifts. Like, it's like an Indian given gift. Basically, a gift that's been given to you that gets taken back because it's like, okay, yeah, it's time for the gift to come back. So you'll sell your soul. Your higher self now becomes your lower self. You are owned. You're flat out owned. Now you're a property. You have some gifts temporarily. They're kind of cool. But when it comes to the end of your life, okay, yeah, you don't get these gifts anymore, and you're coming to me into the domain of the lost. Into the HE double hockey sticks. People are like, oh, hell is what you make it. No, it's pretty specific. You can't sugarcoat what's actually out there. This is a very in-depth video. And for the people who want their gifts actually opened, this video is going to help you actually open your gifts. I'm not sugarcoating it. I'm not putting anything on top of it. I'm telling you, if you're not doing light, I mean, if you're not doing right, you won't see light, and your gifts won't come to fruition. Versus other people are out here making stuff up and then putting other people down because they can't reach a certain level themselves, so they don't want people passing them and opening their spiritual gifts because it's scary when a younger person opens their gift and it made the older person look like a fool. It's scary and people do this subconsciously or not subconsciously. You'll see this with young children. Oh, they're just making stuff up. Give your child a crystal ball. And do the foggy crystal balls, not the clear quartz crystal ball, like a foggy crystal ball, or and make sure it's by selenite as well. You'll be able to open your kids' gifts very easily. Have them do it for like 30 minutes a day, even if it's just, 30 minutes a day is a lot for a kid. Just have them do it and try to get them in the habit of doing it, and they'll open stuff. I have helped very young people open gifts and being able to talk to angels, and it's easy because we live in a day and age where people are like, no one can talk to angels. Like, that's impossible. They're in heaven. Like, they're such on a highest frequency or higher frequency that no one could really talk to them. Well, you just told all the cells in your body that you can't talk to an angel based on your limiting beliefs. They are literally the helpers of humanity. God puts them here to help us, and angels are wonderful beings of light that are very easy to work with. Actually, so easy to work with that people will be like, I don't hear or see or feel them. I'm like, yeah, you do. You just overlooked it. You were looking for a gigantic sign. You were talking to your angel, and you're like, yeah, I want you to move this object. Versus, hey, like, can I just have a small, tiny little feeling in my mind of just peace to be able to really feel you? Yeah. There's a legitimate way to open your gifts, and there's a non-legitimate way to open your gifts. There's people who will stop you from opening your gifts, from ever being able to access them because they're envious, they're jealous, they're just flat out ignorant, and they don't have gifts of their own open, so they don't want to see you open your gifts. And there's a lot of people out here. There's a lot of people out here who have spiritual gifts, and they don't really share it with many people because people will think they're flat out nuts. Or there's people who have spiritual gifts that they use their gifts to help their family or people close to them. There's people out here who do nothing but bad and take advantage of people and really hurt people who have been wanting gifts their entire life, but they just don't get that doing bad leads to you having no gifts. And those people will flat out fake having gifts. So when people around them who actually have gifts open and come to them, they'll be like, you're nuts, you're crazy, you're just that, don't even try, don't do that, don't do that. Because that person doesn't actually have gifts and they don't want you having gifts either. But when you are around the right people who are moving themselves closer to God, moving themselves closer to the highest versions they can be, then guess what? Magic in your life happens. Do good and you'll see good. I highly suggest for people not for the people watching this video, people in this world need to stop trying to go behind God's back and putting other people down. It's incredible what kind of world we live in. There's so much good, but there's so much just not good. We focus on the good and we see more good. When we become more aware of the bad, we actually know how to keep it away from us even more. This is one of those longer videos, but this video is going to help so many people unlock their gifts. True gifts. And keep in mind, if you're someone opening your gifts, keep in mind that they have to open a little bit slowly. Pay attention to the smaller things. They're going to open. They're flat out going to open. Your gifts are going to open. They open gradually and slowly. Some people actually find out how to blast their gifts open, and guess what happens? The gifts are blasted open. The gifts are too intense. Like, you're seeing the entire... I mean, this is very uncommon, but some people will find like a YouTube video or a YouTube guide and literally incinerate the walls between them and their spiritual gifts being opened against their angelic guides or spirit guides' permission. And they'll just blast their gifts open. It's completely intense and completely scary. You've seen these stories online. And these people will be so overwhelmed by it because they were impatient that they actually lose the gift and it slowly goes away. Or it half goes away and the person's never really right from that. Some people will do this with drugs. Some people will do it with mushrooms or just other things, because people will do anything to get their spiritual gifts open. If you want your spiritual gifts open, consult the Most High God, because He's above everyone and everything else and nothing can go on behind His back. If you have any questions, ask them in the comments section. Until then, I will see you guys next time. Ciao.